and welcome to this Nostalgia Train Book Club. Um, Today's live show is for Howl's Moving Castle. I am Violet, the conductor of this crazy train. Um, my co-conductor for this month is Michael, over here.
Hi.
And we also have several co-conductors with us here today. I will let everybody introduce themselves, promo their channels and anything they have going on, books and whatnot. And they can also say their experience with the book if they want. I don't really have any experience with this book. I saw the movie for the first time earlier this year. And then, just read the book now for the book club this month. So, Michael, I'll let you go first since you're the co-conductor.
Oh, sure.
And then we can go in like reverse order. Michael down to Sam, then Kelly up to Mars.
Gotcha. So as Violet's mentioned, I'm Michael. I do the AuthorTube streaming things. I'm co-conductor, very happily so, for this month's book pick. I have no experience with Howl's Moving Castle. Like for me, it's like before I was into AuthorTube, I was into BookTube. And in BookTube, there was always this sort of, from time to time, rumbling of this book called Howl's Moving Castle. The people in BookTube would talk about it, and with a lot of respect and admiration and affection and stuff like that. So I always got this like good vibe from it, kind of like this late classic kind of children's book. Or middle grade vibe from it. So that's really it. And then you can basically just fast forward to when Violet picked the book for the book club. And she asked me if I wanted to be co-conductor for it. I totally said yes, based on my assumptions for the book. And yeah, that's just about it. So I have read the book. I've got my copy here.
Ooh, you got that cover.
Yeah. I have not seen the movie, but Kelly, the video that you put in the Discord, I did watch that, and in that 25-minute video or so, there's actually a fair number of clips of the movie there. So through those clips, I at least do have a sense of the movie, what the vibe is. There's the whole Studio Ghibli vibe, of course, and the music seems like it's really good, and the voice acting, they've got like big names and stuff. There's like Christian Bale, isn't there, and stuff like that. So I at least know like the vibe of the movie, and I also noticed a couple of differences in the movie versus the book, just in terms of like the characters and little things that I noticed. But yeah, that's about it, and that's me. On to you, Sam.
Hi, I'm writing mom Samantha Ilnasset on my channel. I talk about writer things, parent things, and writer-parent things. This is my first time reading the book Howl's Moving Castle. I have seen the movie many, many times in my life, as my sisters and I grew up on many different things, including Studio Ghibli. And Howl's Moving Castle is a favorite of my middle sister. So we watched that one quite a bit. And I recently introduced our children to Studio Ghibli, and they also enjoy this one. So that's my experience with the book. Kelly?
Hello, my name's Kelly. I do the things. And my experience with the book is more of...
Sorry. You got this, Kelly.
I thought you were going to promo your own book coming up, but then you didn't.
I mean, I can, but like I feel like this is so casual, and I don't need to be like super professional like I normally am. Unless you want me to be. Do you want me to bring that level, Violet? It's okay if not. I can be casual. I'm in my fucking comfy.
Okay, well, Kelly's link below under the channeling study.
Yes, I mean, I do also have a YouTube channel, and we are streaming Wednesday and Friday. Friday, we're going to talk about portal fantasies, which also just happens to be what my debut novel, like the subgenre, is. Here you go, guys.
Okay.
But I do the things. I do so many things. And one of the things that I enjoy doing is, binging old movies that bring me all of the nostalgia and feels. And Howl's Moving Castle was one of my first Ghibli films, and an ex had me watch it with him. But it was great, and I loved it. And I read the book recently. I listened to the audiobook, but eventually would like to get the actual physical book for at home so the girls can have access to it whenever they're at that reading level. That's me.
Nice. Well, I practiced my intro today, so y'all are getting the whole thing.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
my name is
Give it to
Mars. I run the channel Somber Honey Books, where I post content about reading, writing, and other shenanigans. I also have a Ko-fi page where I post a lot of stuff, including writing updates. I have editing services on there, and I also have memberships that include a lot of exclusive content, so check that out if you're interested. And then a new addition to my introduction is that I'm publishing a book that comes out this Friday, and it's very exciting. It is a new adult dark academia mystery called Revelry in the Dark, and you should buy it this week if you are into that kind of thing. So, that's me. I am a big fan of Studio Ghibli, so I've seen the movie of Howl's Moving Castle about a dozen times, but this is the first time I've read the book. I have a different version than Michael does. And
I want that copy.
Choo choo.
I really, really loved this experience. I've seen some people say, like, oh, if you've seen the movie first, you're probably not going to love the book, but I absolutely adored it, so.
Oh, there you
I
go.
disagree with that.
Yeah, I disagree with that too, because I feel like it's completely two different experiences.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyways, welcome everybody. Let's say hi to the chat quickly, and pop by to give some support. Even though she doesn't want to stick around because she, I guess, has better things to do and has not.
Hasn't read the book, hasn't seen the movie in ages.
Fair enough. Almost has got distracted, but now I'm here. Hello, hello. Okay, said I watched the movie first as a kid and then immediately purchased the books to read. Oh yeah, it is a series. I do forget that it's a series.
Oh, that's
Um,
good.
They're now a yearly reread and a rewatch for me. Yeah, that's also something I was thinking about, that this is a series, and we all said that we just had read the book for the first time. So even though like I considered this as nostalgia train, and the book came out in the mid 80s,
Right.
most of us got introduced to this as the film. Flora and the Fawn is here. Hello, hello. I read the book, not watched the movie. Okay, so we do kind of the opposite of what I just said. So thank you them for proving me wrong. Support for Mars' book coming out. Whoop whoop. Or just says actually whoa 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 whoa. Yes.
Whoa, yes, Mars.
I saw the movie first, and then when I learned it was based on a book, I read that too, and I loved them both. Seen the movie at least 5 times, read the book probably the same amount of times. Okay. Series to be is a bit of a generous word. Personally, I feel like it's more of stories in the same universe with some overlap. Okay. I wasn't sure because I have seen that it's linked as a series, like on the library. So I wasn't
That's
sure.
still a series, though, even if they're just like, it's just not a continuous series. Because there's a lot of book series, especially in the romance genre, that are like all set in the same world.
Yeah.
Like there are actually a lot of romance series that are set up that it's like, oh well, these 4 best friends, and then each book is about a
for
different
publishing
person.
purposes. The word series
it's a
can
series. Just like the series I'm reading right now.
Oh, I have heard of that one. Well, I usually didn't have a lot of access to like English fantasy kitlit unless it was really popular. So by pure luck, I convinced my uncle to get me one while he was in the UK. Oh, that's really cute. One as in a set of books. Fair enough. It's not a continuous story arc then. Okay, good to know. because I was thinking like I don't know if I would be like wanting to continue with these characters, like, or how much more of a story there was to tell here. So maybe that intrigues me more to continue in this world. So
I think
And
the
how
second
many
one I saw is like inspired by something from 1001 Nights or something. So like what Aladdin came from is a big influence on the second book. I haven't read it, but that's what I saw online, which I think is very interesting.
yeah, how many
Oh,
books are there?
Castle in the Air is book 2.
I should have maybe looked this up. That's usually my job as the person who runs the book club, but I've been a little bit out of it this week, guys.
Well, Castle in the Air is book 2, and I think Castle in the Sky. No, these maybe.
Okay. What discussion would we like to start with? Our choices are plot and pacing, characters, or fantasy/fairy tale tropes.
Plot and pacing. I'll make the decision.
That's how it works. Whoever says first. I mean, the plot, it definitely, yeah, like we said, different if you've come in as a movie watcher, as some of us have. But I mean, I liked it. It was.
I liked the plot and pacing. I thought it went slow where it needed to and picked up. Although I will say the end kind of like got really rushed and a little garbled a bit.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with that. The last little chunk of it kind of zoomed by, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! What is going on?"
Yeah,
I was like, how do I
end chunk.
only have I was like, how do I only have an hour left and all this is going on now?
Yeah.
That's fair.
But I feel like it could have been smoothed out pretty easily. I don't think her entire family tree needed to visit at that one point.
Yeah. All of a sudden, everyone just kind of popped into the castle.
Yeah, it got kind of character soupy at moments. Like,
yeah, I think if the author wanted to do that, that part should have been stretched out a little bit and handled with more care, and that's really what added to the jumble of it all.
Yeah, I think it's even just like the whole thing with Calcifer, and like it's early on that she establishes this mystery, this sort of cliffhanger of, oh, what is this contract between Howl and Calcifer? And then that drags the whole book until literally maybe like the third last page or something. And then it's just like, oh, here it is, like just info dumpy. It's just like, here it is. Calcifer is like sitting on Howl's heart, and Sophie just like picks him off like a tick and throws him and says, "You will live on," because she has magic that just
word speak powers.
Yeah, that says if she says he'll live on, then he will, and then suddenly he's free and happy, and then she just takes Howl's heart and pushes it into his chest.
The magic
From
is very loosely based, but I think that's the certain whimsy that it fits. But yeah, I agree there.
Yeah, but then that's it. That's the whole resolution
Well,
of this thing that's been going on all book. That's supposedly the big
they
cliffhanger.
foreshadow that with like the curse in the poem thing, and then when Michael and her go to try to catch the falling star, and at some point, like, it's like, Hal, have you ever caught a falling star? And he's like, yeah, and then he like realizes what he said and tries to move on. So from my understanding, between all the clues that they lay down, is that Hal caught a falling star and sacrificed his heart to it so that it could continue living as a fire demon.
Yeah.
And then the only way to break the contract is to take the heart back from the falling star. But if he takes the heart back from the falling star, the star dies because that's the only thing keeping it alive. And so Sophie speaks
Yeah.
life into it, and then she also speaks Howl's heart back into his chest
Right.
with much shoving.
I don't know. It did just feel, I don't know if it was just too convenient or too rushed to me, that conclusion. Like, I don't
That
know. I was just
particular conclusion, right?
That
Yeah,
part
that-
of it I felt was very foreshadowed and led up to. So I
it
think
was led up
it-
to, but I think I just wanted maybe more of a, I don't know, maybe more fireworks, explanation points around it. I don't know.
I guess
something.
what I'm basically trying to say is I didn't care when I heard that.
Tell us what you really think, Michael.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's fair. There were no fuck, what's the word? There were no threats by that point.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
it's
like
an anticlimactic climax.
there wasn't a lot of tension in the book, like at all. There was very little in terms of fight tension, and when it came to the
Right.
like all the fights were in the background,
Right.
which I was fine with because I don't really care about that part. But for people who do want that part, I see how that would be a downside.
Yeah, like in the clouds in the background over the sea, a little ways
Yeah, there
out.
are like at least 4 battle scenes that they're like, yeah, things are fighting. Oh
Yeah.
no, Hal's fighting a thing, and then he comes back and he's never really hurt. Like the worst injury he suffers the entire time is a cold.
Oh, that's fair, yeah.
I feel like part of the confusion with the ending is that there's a lot of surprise this character isn't who you thought they were, because you find out like that this woman, I can't remember any names, the teacher from Wales is also like the villain, and then
Is
this
it
person is actually an amalgamation of these two other people, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
a lot of
Mrs.
surprise
Penstone?
these people are different, and you're like, who? I don't remember who they were in the first place. So
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
wasn't really for me, because y'all know I love for like all the foreshadowing, and I usually pick up on a lot of it. So I kind of already figured out who was who and all of that before I got there. But yeah, that's why I think that part needed to be slowed down and a lot more care put into the reveals and how the interconnecting thing went and stuff.
Miss Angorian, was that the lady?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I also kind of was wondering a little bit about that sort of subplot. Just because
Yeah.
She
It's-
was too suspicious. She was like,
I don't know, it's just because there was already a lot of characters and a lot going on, and it just didn't. I don't
Yeah,
know if
because-
it was a necessary subplot, in my opinion, just because this is
Right.
like geared at children. Like, if I was cutting one of the subplots, that's the subplot I would have cut.
Yeah, I would say that when I read the line, which was the bombshell that Miss Angorian was, the witch's fire demon, like I was impressed. Like I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like it served the purpose. Like the bombshell worked on me. It impressed on me. But then, like when I got to the end of the page or something, and I was turning the page, I was kind of thinking about like all the things that had happened so far with Miss Angorian, and it didn't seem to make sense that she would be the fire demon. And how long has Howl known that she was the fire demon? And why didn't he say stuff? Like it just didn't really seem to make sense up to that point.
see, I thought Miss Angorian was the Witch of the West in disguise, or the Witch of the Wasteland in disguise, because he, like, the little poem thing got back to him through his nephew because of the teacher, and then the curse started
Teens
taking
and young
root and
adults,
everything.
or children, I
because
will say gays, sorry. Kitlet, sorry. Sorry to cut
Okay.
you off, Sam. I just addressing that comment.
You're fine. I just
So-
gotta find
The
my train of
Wasteland,
thought.
sorry. I cut
Miss
you off.
Angorian as the witch.
Yeah, and then like the curse took hold again when they were talking to Miss Angorian and stuff, and just
Yeah.
the way she was presented, I was like, is that the Witch of the Wasteland using a really good disguise spell? Because like what I need to know is why does Angorian get to walk around as a person, but poor Calcifer is just stuck in a hearth. Which is
Yeah,
like Calcifer's only issue in life is he wants to be where the people are.
that could be a little bit of a world building issue. Like, is she communicating to us clearly what a fire demon is in the first place?
It's a falling star.
Oh, so is a
Yeah,
is
are
every
they the
fire
same
demon
thing?
a falling star?
It's the stars fall and then they make a contract with a human and then they become fire demons.
Okay.
Because
I knew that
otherwise
was
they just
how.
die.
Yeah, I knew that was how like it worked with Calcifer, but I didn't. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
I was
No,
also unclear about that,
in
Michael,
that
to be
ru-
fair.
in that rushed part, Hal explains that the Witch of the Waste also made a contract with her heart, and Angorian had been planning on replacing the Witch of the Waste heart with Hal's heart. So
Yeah,
they like made the exact same exchange, which I'm like, if they made the exact same exchange, why is Calcifer stuck in the hearth? And like, if it's an age thing, that just means Calcifer's got to wait a few centuries and he can walk around. Why would he risk dying?
So I guess another good question to bring up is, would you make a contract with the falling star, and what would you name your fire demon, or do they already have names? Like, let's talk about that, because
Calcifer's a cool name.
I'm curious, are we going to make contracts with demons or are we not?
I mean,
well,
The character spinner.
I feel like I'd have to say yes.
I
Like, I don't want this
know.
thing to die right in front of me. And also, I get a cool little buddy.
yeah,
But
it's
they
also
said the fire demons aren't good or bad; that they just
Yeah, but the
exist,
star wanted
so-
to die, didn't it? That was
The-
the
That
the
one
one that-
specifically did.
Yeah, the one that Michael caught wanted to die, but Calcifer said he was like, I knew I was going to die, and I would do anything not to die. So
Right.
presumably they all have different personalities.
yeah.
So
They're kind of like
I was
people.
I specifically, the reason I listened to the audiobook on the road trip with my family, because it was me, my mom, my partner, and my 12-year-old niece. And I picked it because I thought it'd be a good, like, family friendly, like, for everybody, a book. But my niece was like not interested, not listening. And that was the only part that she like really like perked up and listened to, was when that star was like falling and like, let me die, I want to die. And she thought that was so hilarious. Like, that was like
Has
the
she,
only part that she thought was funny. And then at the very end,
has she
when
seen the Mario movie?
That's what I was going to ask, if has she watched the Mario movie yet with one of Rosalina's little stars
The
in the
Luma, yeah.
I
in
have
the
no
cave.
idea. And then at the end, when Howl and Sophie got together, she's like, I knew they were gonna fall in love. And I was like, you weren't even listening to the book the whole time, you little shit. Like,
It sounds like she was. She just wasn't letting on.
She was listening
Yeah.
to enough of it to keep her interest, and then
Yeah.
tuning
Yeah,
out the rest
so-
of it.
Your niece is giving off the same vibes as the grandson in The Princess Bride when he's being read the story.
yeah.
Oh, I love The Princess Bride. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
back to
that's funny.
the stars and the fire demons. What was the question? What would
If
you
you-
name it?
Yeah, like if you would make the deal, and what would you name it, or does it already have a name?
I wouldn't bother.
I probably
Making
wouldn't.
it-
No,
It's like,
I
I'll
might
just let
bother.
it die.
I might bother. I would read the room. Depends on the
I would
moment.
read the room.
I
like
would
how-
ask the star, "Are you getting rid of my migraines?" Yes. Take my heart. It's fine.
I would like Calcifer in my house because I'm in the kitchen a lot. It's one of my happy places to be. And it'd just be nice to have someone in there to talk to while I'm doing other things. Company for a stay-at-home mom, I would totally make that deal. Do I have a phone? Yes. But
They
I could
named
have a fire demon.
themselves.
And I just wanted to say, just to make sure I hit it, that I believe that the word demon is used in the, I don't even know how to say it, like the more general sense. of like a demon, like a spirit, as opposed to like
Yeah.
what we might
I
think of
agree.
like as demon, like something evil from the devil, coming from the
Oh,
devil.
that makes me want it less.
Of course.
It's just demon, like a spirit.
I will say I've read enough multicultural things that my default for a demon is just a spirit thing and not like evil
Yeah.
unless I am told otherwise. So yeah, because like not the king, the old, when they go to the castle, I cannot remember her name, but she like was murdered by the Witch of the Waste, and she
Is
said
this
that the
Penstemon?
demons, yes,
Mhm.
she said that the demons are not good or evil, but that like,
Yeah.
but then they're like the Witch of the Waste demon specifically is controlling her. So what I took from that is the stars could be good or evil or neutral, and the Witch of the Waste has an evil one, and Calcifer is just kind of neutral. He just wants to live. He just doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
See, I could have a calcifer in my kitchen and be completely content.
Well,
I think
that's what
I love a Calcifer.
I was gonna ask you guys, since I have the characters topic banner up, like favorite characters, least favorite characters, because in the movie, Calcifer was like my favorite character, but
Yeah.
book Calcifer I liked less than movie Calcifer.
I can see
Okay.
that.
who else was great? Turnip Head.
Turnip Head, my
Could you-
beloved. Oh, he's so good.
Could you
Oh,
just
so
imagine though interviewing the stars to make sure you don't get an evil fire demon?
so in
Just
the
tell me your top
movie,
10 priorities.
so in the movie,
Mhm.
this scarecrow is called Turnip Head.
Yes.
Yeah, his head is
Okay.
made of a turnip, and Sophie's like, "It's a shame your head is my least favorite vegetable, but I like you anyway."
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
Scarecrow is different in the
Yeah,
movie.
he's like a Frankenstein
Yeah.
in the book.
In
Yeah.
the movie, he doesn't terrify her. She actually like kind of
Befriends him.
adopts
Yeah.
him in a weird way. And like there's scenes where she's hanging clothes and he's holding the clothesline.
Yeah, and so in the book when he is introduced, I was like, "Oh, the Scarecrow's here," and then she's like running away from him. I was like,
Oh,
they're
no.
gonna like get friends later, and then like she sees him again. She's like, "That Scarecrow is following me again." I was like, "Oh, maybe they're not
Poor
gonna
Turnip
become
Head.
friends." I think though in the book, I really liked Michael as a character.
The
More
fact
than
that his name was Michael really
Yeah.
cheesed me up. I'm like, excuse me?
because
I was
in
gonna
the
say, like,
movie he's kind of annoying.
Well, he's also like 10 in the movie, whereas he's 15 in
He's
the
much younger.
Yeah, and in the book, he's kind of cool actually.
How do you feel about this, Michael? How do you feel about book and movie, Michael?
To be fair, it's movie Markle.
It is Markle.
And how is Markle spelled again?
Markl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
We
think
said
you
it at the same
guys-
time. It must be true.
Yeah, I think you did mention it in the Discord. Yeah, so yeah, I would say actually, like, who was your favorite character? I could pose that question because my favorite character was probably. I mean, I feel like Sophie was enough of like the main character that she's kind of different. Like she would have to be a favorite of yours unless you just hated the book or something.
Oh, I
But
didn't like her.
I would say not counting Sophie, for sure my favorite character would be Calcifer.
I like the sisters a lot. I
Oh, the
like that
sisters
there's
are
two
cool.
sisters in the book that I was not expecting because there's only one in the movie, and they
Yeah.
kind of like completely cut out the one sister going to like apprentice with a witch. But I liked Martha and
Letty.
Letty. I thought they were very fun.
The actual Letty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved the three sisters and that they like her two younger sisters were just so concerned about her. they're like, girl, we need to talk to you. You need to get out of the hat shop.
And she's like, it's fine. I gotta
I'm
do it.
not-
I'm the oldest.
I'm not a fan of Sophie's whole as the oldest of three girls, I'm doomed to just fuck up. And I'm like, look here. As
I
the
thought
oldest
that
of
was so
three
funny.
girls, I don't like this read on our position in life.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, the oldest sibling position. I felt that whenever she was talking about it. I'm like, oh,
Actually, I kind of thought that like maybe I come from a different background or something, but I kind of thought it was like the other way around, where if you were the baby of like 5 kids or something, you were the one who um, kind of didn't have to do anything because you were always looked on as the baby of the family. You could just
I'll see. I probably
have
misheard
an
what
easier
we-
time. I don't know.
I misheard what we were talking about then because my heathens were.
No. Okay, so Sophie's whole thing was that because she's the oldest, that means that she's going to mess up, and she's going to mess up the worst of the three because her younger sisters will have her mistakes to learn from. They won't have to
Mhm.
make those mistakes themselves. And also that basically through like a hand-me-down system, her sisters would just be more and more successful. So her baby sister would of course be the most successful because she would be the most doted on and have the most chances, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, kind of
And
like
the
the idea of
mom,
like your kids will have a better life than you, but like
yeah.
siblings version.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so which is true in some families, especially lower middle class, because like the oldest children often take on the burden of the parents' financial issues so that their younger siblings can like go to college and stuff. And so like that's what Sophie was projecting. But I also think so like Sophie's magic kind of had a little bit to do with like a self-fulfilling prophecy there. Because she, spoke that into the world, and so that is how it was for her. And as the oldest of three girls myself, I was like, Sophie, I don't appreciate this attitude on our position in life, because fuck you.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know if I found
But
Sophie all that likable.
She was all right.
I
There are
like
other
Grandma
characters I hate more
Sophie.
than her.
The
I-
thing is, like, especially like I said at the end of the book, like when Sophie and Howl kind of like get together, I didn't feel any like romantic vibes between them on Sophie's part. On Howell's part, I did. On Sophie's part, I felt like that she didn't have any romantic feelings towards Howl like
Yeah.
throughout
Yeah.
the book.
I will say the romance was not as prominent as I expected it to be, but when they're just looking each other in the eyes at the end of the book, completely ignoring everybody, and Hal says, I think we ought to live happily ever after, I will say, killer line. Loved that moment. Did kind of feel a little bit out of nowhere, but I loved that moment.
Yeah,
I
but
feel like
like
the
it was stated
sparks
before,
of
this
chemistry.
was. Oh,
Yeah.
hold on, you can
feel
talk,
like-
Sam. I'm looking for a comment.
Okay, I feel like the sparks of romance were there, but I don't feel like. I feel like she had a lot of good things planned out, and then she got to a point, and it's like, when you're doing like a sprint in a competition, and you're sitting there, and your story is going really well, and then you're like, oh shit, I only have 10 minutes left to write, and then you're trying to shove everything you thought into those last little 10 minutes. That's how this felt. So, because like I could see where the romance was starting, and I could see where it was picking up, and I was like, all right, I could see this, especially with her getting jealous over the fire demon that she didn't know was a fire demon. But then I don't feel like by the end of the book that they were there. So
Yeah.
I feel like she rushed her homework to meet a deadline at the end.
So the general consensus about a lot of things is just the ending needed more space and time.
Yes.
Yeah, it was literally the ending literally felt like she was suddenly throwing at you like a whole lot of bombshells or like resolutions to cliffhangers and stuff like that, and kind of like one after the other to the point where it felt like an info dump of bombshells.
Kind of.
And then it's kind of like any kind of info dump you're not too much of a fan of because it just
I think it's more like a
doesn't
synopsis.
feel,
Sorry.
yeah, it just doesn't feel like you just don't really care when you
It
get info
felt
dump.
like a domino line falling over in a way. Like
Yeah,
It
yeah.
kind of felt more like a synopsis of what the finale of the book would be.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sophie thinks she's genre savvy, and the world the story is set in is a fairy tale where the first and sometimes second children will always fail when they seek their fortune.
I will say it was a little bit refreshing to see her be like, oh, well, as the oldest, I'm destined to fail. I'm going to do things anyway.
Sure. She does go ahead and do things, that's for sure.
She is wonderfully accepting of everything that happens, and I did appreciate that about her.
I think maybe just because I did see the movie first, and you get so much like physical emotion through the animation of her like transformation into the old woman, like her like feeble old walking, her wrinkled face, like, and you don't get that in the book. You just have to imagine her as an old woman. Like, I don't know. The
You have to like pay extra attention to the difference between like toward the beginning of the book when she like wakes up after doing a lot of things. She's like achy, she's in pain, and then she like does more and more things, and she's like she doesn't hurt anymore. She's got more energy and stuff, but like
yeah, I just
it's
think
really
maybe
easy to not notice that stuff because it's not pointed out until Howl points it out. He's like, "Oh, did you not notice that you're not in pain and stuff all the time?" And I'm like, Hal, no, I didn't notice that. But now that you mention it, I do recognize a distinct lack of her waking up achy. But that shouldn't have to be pointed out to me.
Yeah, I just think maybe Diana Wynne Jones didn't like have maybe like that as like descriptive visceral prose style that would have really like hit this transformation into like 18-year-old girl to like elderly woman, like as like I'm sure some writers could have made that like really pop, but again, this is like 1980s,
Yeah.
like fairy tale style written.
Yeah, I will kind of add to that. I feel like the book was polished and by Jones herself and reread and everything, and it was copy edited and everything, but it was never developmentally edited in the first place. Like it was like a first draft that was then polished.
Mike's just coming out here swinging on
No,
everyone's
that's
childhood.
honestly just how I feel because like it read pretty nicely and it flowed and there weren't like mistakes and stuff like that. But then when you think of like the bigger things, they didn't really make sense. They didn't seem convincing. The cliffhangers that had you hanging on for like 200 pages were not satisfying after those 200 pages. The way that things were described in terms of like which door led to what and the design of the castle and the situation of it didn't seem right to me. A lot of it was just kind of like ground level stuff, like where you could have fixed all of that through substantive editing in the beginning and then refined the actual sort of line by line book itself. But it's like it went through that refinement, but before it was actually kind of revised properly on a large level. That's what I
will
feel.
Defend the author's writing style, as I often do in these discussions, as she was writing in a very fairy tale whimsical style, and as the fairy tale genre in general is just less refined and defined, that's like the appeal of the fairy tale genre. It's like it's very whimsical. You're not fed every little bit of world building. You don't need to know all the concrete rules. That flexibility is built into the genre as part of its charm. So I think doing an extreme overhauled developmental edit like you're saying would actually take away from it. I think that would make it just not as nice as a read. As a very big lover of the fairy tale genre for its charm and whimsy and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I get into similar discussions with my friend over Legend of Zelda games for the same reason. Because
I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's an argument to be made in both directions because, like, if you look at the film, like, where it really has some of the same cornerstones as the plot, but it's a completely different story. But you can definitely see the same touchstones. but it had a huge overhaul.
But I
I
don't
would
agree
be
with the film's
interested.
overhaul. I
I
actually
would.
don't like it. I think the film is a good adaptation. However, Miyazaki prioritized his anti-war message over several of the subplots of the book. And I actually didn't like the movie Howl's Moving Castle until like I was an adult. And
Okay.
because some part of me like really just it didn't feel right, it didn't settle with me, and as an adult and I watched it and I realized what it was. It is that those weird that weird like little anti-war thing that's going on but never fully like explored. So it leaves a weird feeling for like I'm a military kid, so like my family was military and stuff, and I was discontented because I wasn't sure what the movie was trying to say as a kid, right? It's like I'm supposed to be focusing on this
Mhm.
like romance and Sophie going through this journey of self-discovery and stuff, and why is Howl being a giant bird and dealing with like bombings and stuff? And in
Yeah,
the
there's
movie,
definitely more romance in the movie too.
and
Yeah.
in the movie, his whole thing is like, I don't want to go to war, and because I don't want to go to war, I don't want to listen to the king. But he's going to war like every night, and that just didn't make sense, right? Like he's already doing it, and then out of nowhere, Turnip Head's like, I'm the missing prince that was mentioned earlier in the movie.
I will say, since I watched
Yeah.
this movie this past weekend, I always thought that line came out of nowhere. In the beginning, when Sophie is like going through the back alleyways right before she meets Hal for the first time, there are two characters in the background of a scene being like, "Hey, did you read the newspaper about the missing prince?" There's one line that I
That's the line.
missed, and then like later on, you're like, "What do you mean this prince missing from the neighboring kingdom?" I love that line. I think it's so funny because it just feels like it comes out of nowhere. But yeah, that's my tangent. There is one single line keeping
I
you
did
busy.
want to kind of say one thing about Wilma's comment here,
Oh, yes.
because this I do think Jones did well in the book. That you do see Sophie when she becomes old, like having the thing where you don't give a crap about, like
I love Grandma Sophie.
yeah,
I
that
adore
is
her.
true.
I
That aspect of being old, she captured really well.
Yeah, I also, when I was reading, and even early on in the book, that came to my mind as something that I thought she did very well. The way that Sophie magically and like in terms of her exterior becomes old and in terms of her body, but then in her mind and her soul as well,
Yeah,
she adopts this personality.
yeah,
And I just thought that was cool.
that
And it
was
kind of
cool.
reminds me of like Seinfeld, like what's the old Seinfeld joke? Like I'm old and I'm backing up. I don't know if you ever seen that,
No, but it
where it's
sounds
like,
funny.
how old people when they drive, they just back up. They don't look where they're in the mirror or anything. They just back up because they feel like, at least as a joke goes, they feel like they've earned that right in their life at that point where they can just back up if they want. And it was kind of like that. She just kind of didn't give a crap about stuff all of a sudden because she was in that mindset of being old already.
Yeah, well, I'm pointing out different stories thematically differently, but it's weird because they do have so many of the same elements.
Yeah, it's like it is fascinating how skillfully done
Hi, Ty.
Miyazaki put in his own message into the already existing story and still stayed true to most of the story, but
Right.
I liked actually.
as an author, I don't know how I would feel about that. Like,
I
this is
actually
the
really
story I
liked
wrote.
book Howl better than movie Howl, because movie Howl I just
As did I.
thought was kind of a I
I
don't know.
think movie Howl is more teen angsty. We want to fix him.
He's a brat. Movie
Okay,
Howl
but I
is
don't
just a
understand
brat.
why they cast Christian Bale as the voice actor, and then he does a Welsh actor, and then have him do an American accent.
I don't
Didn't make sense
know.
to me.
Welsh?
It makes no
Christian Bale is Welsh. Yeah, like
That's
what?
news to me. I genuinely assumed he was American.
And I was like, why would you do that?
That is
So
really weird.
what year did the movie come out?
The 90s.
Oh, that long ago.
Thanks for calling me old, Mike. No, I'm kidding.
I guess
But when
Christian Bale's
Michael
been
calls you old, it's bad.
around.
It's fine. Just ancient immortal here. 2005.
Okay.
My bad. The early 2000s. But as we all know, the early 2000s and the 90s are the same decade.
Because I think the thing about Howl being a womanizer in the book, like, was explored like fully, where in the movie, like,
Yes.
it's just touched on, so seems kind of skeezy, but it's like a full arc in the book of him being a womanizer. So I didn't like take it like as such a character flaw in the book as I did in the movie.
Oh.
In the book, it felt less like he was a womanizer and more like he was searching for the end of the curse, and he knew that he had to like fall in love, and so he was like genuinely in love with them. But then the moment they fell in love with him because of the curse, he fell out of love with them, and he seemed to like feel a little bad about that, but not like he was like, eh.
Yeah,
I feel like he didn't feel bad about it until Sophie came into his life.
Yeah, it felt more like part of his story arc than just like him being like, I don't know, like a jerk.
Yeah, and
like
in
the movie, he just seems arrogant
just
to me.
Oh. Really?
Drunk Hal or you changed my hair.
I think that was like one of my favorite things in the movie was the hair dye thing.
Now I'm hideous. Like, buddy, you just have a different color hair. You're fine.
They have that in the book.
Yeah, they did have that in the book as well.
Yeah.
It was my favorite thing to watch, though. Like, I liked watching that play out.
Yeah.
He has
Just
like
the slime
full
build up and
meltdown.
then
Yeah. Just because his hair has changed, or actually just because there's a little bit of a patch of red or something in his
strawberry blonde now.
Yeah, ain't nothing wrong with gingers.
Yeah.
So between the book and the movie, how do you feel about the black section of the dial and where that leads to? Because in the book, it leads to Wales, and in the movie, it leads to like Howl Psyche or something weird like that.
It leads to the battlefields. Like the black one.
But then it also leads to his past, because that's how Sophie gets to see Howl catching Calcifer in the movie, is because going through the door leads somehow to the past. I never understood it.
I think the black door in the movie just takes Howl to wherever he needs to be. And so Sophie needed to be in his past. It sure is.
So, like, if you're running late for work, and there's going to be traffic, you can just turn the knob to black down, and you need to get to work, so you just jump right to work, huh?
Yeah,
but then it's magic, Michael. So instead of sending you to work, it like sends you on this journey of self-discovery, and you're like, "But no, I'm gonna be fired."
Then you're really late for work.
On your problem of being late. Yeah, I think I kind of liked the Wales part, so I think that was cool.
I was gonna say we were having a whole moment about it backstage, so if we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, I knew going into the book that it was vastly different from the movie, and I was reading the first half, and I'm like, oh, like I can see the changes they made, but it doesn't feel vastly different. And then I read Wales, and I'm like, excuse me?
I feel like in the movie, they're like, okay, so we're cutting out the subplot with him having family. And we got to figure out how she figures out about the catching the falling star. And they're like, well, the door, that's what we're doing, because the door doesn't go to his non-existent family anymore.
Yeah, I could see how that could make things a lot easier in a movie that was forced to be a lot more condensed, where you could just have the the black blob down door leading to whatever, in terms of just developing the plot. It would be a lot easier that way.
I want to know
Yeah,
whose
I
idea
guess,
it was
but-
to make Howl a flying fighter bird, because that didn't come from the book.
I'm
No,
just
I'm
gonna be
going with
honest.
that
If I was Diana Wynne Jones, that's a change that I would be mad about being changed in my book.
Okay.
The door to Wales, not the flying fighter bird. Maybe I'd be mad
So
about that
so there's
too.
no is
I'd
there
be
no
down with a
whales
flying
at all
fighter
in
bird.
the movie?
No.
Yeah, there's
No.
no whales at all in the movie.
So what
Except
about like
for Christian
Megan?
Bale, but he's hiding it with his accent.
Right.
Like,
So
you
there's no
never
Megan
find...
or the whole family?
No, there's not. None in his
Oh.
family. Nor
Wow.
does the Witch of the Waste have a fire demon. Her
I feel
powers...
like Witch of the Waste is so underutilized in the movie
She's-
because she curses Sophie and then she doesn't do anything else.
No, she becomes a gelatinous blob.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She does
In the
become
movie.
a blob. Yeah, in the
Yeah,
movie.
that happens
It
to her. It's not
basically-
her doing anything.
Okay, basically in the movie, the movie is book accurate with her up until the meeting at the castle, and she doesn't kill. Well, that's the other thing. Sullivan and the one lady are smushed together in the movie. They're the same character because in the movie she's Madame Sullivan, and the Witch of the Waste goes to see her, and she strips her of all her magic power. Because she's basically like, when wizards get out of hand, we strip them of their power in this world. Which is not a thing they did in the book that I just realized. But yeah, so then she just sort of becomes a melted puddle person that Sophie and Hal adopt.
She becomes the age that she actually is without her magic.
Yeah, I
kinda
did see
forgot
some of
about
that in the video that Kelly linked.
Yeah, when they were talking about Sophie's compassion about
Yeah.
taking care of the Witch of
Yeah.
the...
If
Yeah,
I'm
that's what
able
became...
to organize it. We
her.
could do a
Yeah.
movie night in Discord if people are interested. I'll see what I
Mm.
can put.
I would love that.
Do we have access to the movie? Is it like a
I will
paid
try
thing,
to
or-
organize it, and I will keep y'all updated.
On HBO Max. I don't know if it's on any other streaming services. That's how I watched it.
Right.
Okay.
This is my favorite comment, though.
Yeah.
My
Stop
family.
pretending to be a wizard.
That was very so that's the scene where it's like there's the video game thing, and then they're coming downstairs, and then they just kind of bump into, like, Sophie and Michael are coming down the stairs, and they kind of bump into Megan kind of randomly telling Howl off, like, and she's just like shouting at him, and it didn't seem realistic to me that you have like guests in your house and you just decide to quick fire at your brother.
Well,
Like,
your family is much different than mine, then.
I was about to say, I
Very
see you come from a
believable.
well-adjusted family, Michael.
And I was just like, whoa, like they just literally fall into this family argument.
Well, yeah, that's how it happens sometimes. Because Megan was talking to Hal when they were alone in the kitchen, and the other two were like chilling back with the kids. And then
No,
the
Howl
other
was
two come
upstairs with the other two, talking to the two boys, because
Then why
he
weren't they
needed,
there at the beginning of the argument?
I don't remember this.
because
think
it was
that's
like
how it went down
first. Yeah, but I think it was only like a moment later.
yeah, because
Yeah,
like
but
they're
that
up
moment's
there.
long enough for your sibling to be like, "Look here!"
Yeah, he went down the stairs a few moments before, like a moment before
Yeah.
Sophie and Michael, and then
So
in
then
that
it's-
moment Megan started to talk to him and started to
as
like,
as angry siblings
into
sometimes are
him.
ought to
Yeah.
do. And
Okay,
then when they see the guests, they don't stop. They just keep going.
If
They're like, I already started.
I get why, like they did, like they cut the whale stuff, like for the movie how it was made, and I
Yeah.
think the movie worked really well. But like if it was a live action adaptation, the whale stuff would be really cool.
So do you think Howl is the older sibling or younger sibling?
He definitely feels like the oldest who has disappointed everybody else.
Yeah.
Or the middle.
Or
He
I think
feels
all
like
of it.
baby
Yeah.
brother to me.
Oh really? He felt
is
older
it
to
not
me.
is it not said really quickly that he's the older sibling.
See that?
Wikipedia says that he's 27.
Yeah, he is 27. They said that in the book.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
There was something vaguely, yeah, I remember it was something about his age, and I kind of thought he was like in his 30s or something. But
Wikipedia says he states that he will soon be 10,000 days old.
Yes.
right, and then
Yeah,
you can
and 10,000 divided by 365 is 27.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I just read what
Drama
Wikipedia
of this
says.
man.
But I was wondering a little bit about that because, like Sophie, when she is meeting for the one time with Mrs. Penstemon, she's trying to sell to her that she's Howl's mother, but
Oh,
she
yeah.
also says that she's like 90.
Yeah. Well, I think she said, like, in her internal monologue, she's like, I just said the first high number that I could think of.
Yes.
Yeah. And as I understood, Mrs. Penstemon knew she was all along under the spell and that she was really Sophie of whatever, 18 years old, but she just never said anything to her face, right? Because she didn't see the point. And then later on, I think it's like Howl or something, or later on it's someone who says, maybe it's just Sophie. She's like, oh yeah, for sure, Mrs. Penstemon would be able to detect a spell, a strong spell, like coming from the Witch of the Waste. So in other words, she would have known that Sophie was under that spell.
Yeah, I was like surprised because didn't they reveal it that Hal was like, oh, I knew you were under the spell the whole time. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was
There
actually
was that
surprised by
Explain
that.
why he didn't feel weird falling in love with her.
I know, because I was like, this feels weird, because there was moments where he was kind of a little bit flirty with her as an old lady. I was like, this feels weird. And then when he said that, I was like, okay, that makes it less creepy, but also, okay.
But
It
I
was
think
just
that is
full of
one of the issues that I have with the book, which is that the bombshells just feel like cherry bombs.
Yeah, it just felt like, okay.
Like you don't really care that it's like, here you go, and it's like you don't even really care about what you're getting.
I kind
in
of
that
agree
moment.
with you, Michael, on that.
And it
Okay.
kind of gets
Would you
worse
have to go,
towards the
Kelly?
end when they're kind of, like you said, dominoing, just kind of being info dumped on you one after the other. But
I didn't want to interrupt Michael, but yeah, I'm gonna have to go. I've been invaded, and I don't think I can continue to fight off the invasions. But I had to go anyway because
Okay.
mom. So,
Bye.
okay.
yep.
Thanks for
Thanks for
joining
having
us.
me.
It was awesome having
Bye
you.
bye. See
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Ugh.
I feel it makes more sense that he would have known from the beginning because like literally everyone else he comes into contact with who has a curse or something, he just knows. It's like they can just
Yeah.
sense the magic.
Hmm.
So it would seem that like things like disguises and curses are only unknown to people without magic. Like people with magic, they can just tell.
Yeah. Especially if the spell is stronger and cast by a more powerful magician, I guess.
He been trying to stealth break her curse.
Yeah.
I will say
Topic.
they never satisfactorily tell me how she broke her own curse, though. I don't feel like her attitude changed at all.
Yeah, it was like because when they killed the actual witch, that did not break the curse, but then when they vanquished Miss Angorian also, like the fire demon, then that was when Sophie's curse just kind of disappeared.
No, her curse wasn't broken until she put Howl's heart back in Howl. And then like that
I took it as
made
being
her
the curse was
from-
broken when she accepted that she wasn't gonna fail everything because when she was putting the heart back in, she was like, "This is going to work. I'm going to do this correctly."
Okay,
I
I'll
think that
accept
was
that.
her saying like, "I'm not gonna listen to this thing that's been told to me my whole life. I will succeed, even though I'm the oldest sister."
I love soft
Okay.
magic. Let's talk about
Just
our
push
last.
the heart back in.
Let's just talk about our last discussion topic: theme symbols and motifs. Everybody's favorite.
Do the
Not all at
literary
once.
references count? Because there were so many literary references that I just didn't expect.
It definitely counts as a motif, I would say.
Yeah. Because there was like the John Donne poem that we explicitly get told is that poem.
Yes.
There's at least 2 Hamlet references because he says, "Alas, poor Yorick," and then he also says something's rotten in the state of Denmark. And I'm like, that feels weird, but okay. And I'm pretty sure the Witch of the Waste is supposed to be a play on the Wicked Witch of the West.
I know I keep accidentally saying Witch of the West enough that I agree.
Like, I just feel like there was a lot of allusions to other literary works sprinkled in, and I thought it was interesting, but a little bit weird.
Okay, so I will ask this to you, Mars. Did you feel there was any meaning to those references, or were they just references? Like
I don't know.
the so what question. How would you answer that?
The fact that the curse was like directly in line with this seemingly random poem felt very contrived to me. I'm like, John Donne doesn't matter to this story, so why is this poem that he wrote literally the outline for this curse that Howl has?
Yeah.
Perhaps it is what inspired it.
But then why didn't she make her own poem? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know the poem was a real poem, so
I didn't know
that's
it
like-
was a reference either.
yeah, well, she did directly say, "Hey, this is that specific poem." Like in
okay, but like I didn't know that was a real poem, nor
okay.
did I Google it. So as far as I was aware, she's just making shit up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
no, I
all-
studied
is what I
poetry
was
in college.
saying.
So they said John Donne, and I'm like, I know who that is. He's a
So
real dude.
yeah, I had the same kind of wondering, like why that poem specifically, because it did feel out of left field. Because then I had the same question, like as a writer, why wouldn't you then make up your own poem?
Maybe she sucks at poetry.
You commission your friendly neighborhood Michael to help you.
I thought it was an
Friendly.
interesting
I don't-
moment, but also just raised more questions than it answered.
Yeah, it did seem random to me as well. I read online that there was also a lot of Tolkien references in the book. I didn't pay attention for them, but
Really, huh?
yeah,
I
somebody.
wouldn't have thought of that. How so?
I don't know. I just read it online when I was looking up something about House Moving Castle. I didn't see them myself. I just heard somebody else say it.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have thought of that.
But like in the same way, like little Easter eggs like that, not like.
Well, Miss says
Meaningfully.
she thinks it was a way to link the book to reality because the witch cursed Howl via whales. So that could have been a thing. It could have been her way of trying to ground that her story took place on Earth, just a fantastical Earth.
It
What
could
way
just
John
be
Donne
Easter eggs
Tolkien,
for things that she likes. Yeah, I do
Yeah.
that in my books all the time.
Mhm.
well, like Tolkien had a really big issue because of how people tried to like discuss his world and were like, oh well, like Middle Earth is basically its own fantasy world, and he's like, no, Middle Earth is Earth. It's like England. This is a whole thing. So
Yeah.
maybe she also wanted to be like, no, this book takes place in England.
John
Yeah.
Donne isn't
Also
even a
Howl
Welsh
is-
poet. He's from London.
So
Disappointing.
her story takes place in England.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe she's just saying like it's a different reality, England, and like
A fantastical England.
yeah,
Like,
fantastical.
Oh, so the whales and the rest of it I always pictured it as being like Portal fantasy, where it's 2 separate worlds that they're going between when they go to Wales and then back to Ingery. I didn't even
no,
think of the fact that they could be on the same.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that the story itself takes place in England. And then he has a portal to Wales.
I didn't even think of the possibility of them being in the same world. I picture them as like different parallel universes or something like that. That's part of why I was very confused and shocked by the whales, because I was like, whoa. But that makes a lot more sense now with that frame of reference.
I'm double checking.
There is no actual place called Ingery, is there? Did she just make that word up?
I'm pretty sure it's just made up.
Yeah. But I'm also pretty sure, just because of how big the world is, there's some place out there called Ingery, spelled the same way.
Yeah, his family doesn't believe in magic. Yep.
Right. So it's a bit like Harry Potter or something, isn't it?
Okay, according to Diana, Ingery is a fantasy land. And then it does connect to Wales.
Correct.
It kind of gives me.
Well, it does take place in 2 different realities.
It gives me like
Right.
Stardust vibes, where
Hmm.
Wall is in England, but then you go through and you're in the different fairylands.
I think maybe even Graveyard Book was like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the actual graveyard was not so much actual England, but it was within England.
Well, the Graveyard Book straight up says it takes place in England. One of the characters moves there from Scotland, but it also
that's
has
right, yeah.
portals to other worlds. So
Yeah, and there's the whole Scotland thing too. Yeah.
Hold on. I'm trying to think of any other theme symbols and motifs.
I'm just trying to connect it to Lord of the Rings any which way.
You're still stuck on that?
Just Google it, Michael. Somebody else did the work for you. I don't know if it was Lord of the Rings or just Tolkien in general.
Okay. there
Well,
you
like
go.
Aang said that Diana was a student of Tolkien, so I wouldn't be
yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, I saw that comment. The chat was on fire today. We had a really great chat, so I just want to say shout out to the chat for I know Aang already left, but
Go chat.
the
I feel like-
2004 film had Welsh erasure and erased all
Oh,
hints
yeah.
and references to Wales.
I feel like one of the major themes in the book is fate versus making your own path, because you have Sophie who so clearly believes that she's going to fail because of this whole idea of like, oh, I'm the oldest, I have to, versus Howl, who is saying that he doesn't really believe in that kind of stuff, but his actions kind of make it seem like he's trying to escape it rather than completely outright denying it.
yeah.
Hal has to reverse psychology his own ass to get him to do things.
Howl is a mess.
But I mean, you also have Martha and Letty switching places,
Mhm.
Yeah.
taking control of their own destinies.
But they both become Letty because they switch places, but Letty stays Letty as
Yes.
she's like in whatever upper folding.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
she is kind of allowed to in that situation.
Yeah, so Marta becomes Letty, but Letty ultimately stays Letty. So there's just 2 Lettys.
Yeah.
Letty introduces herself as Martha, and the witch is like, no, you're not.
Yeah, I actually liked that plot, and I was like, I could just read a whole story just about the sisters and just forget about Howl in the Moving Castle. I was invested in those girls.
I have to also admit, I kept in my mind saying Marta. And I was like, no, it's Martha because of Marta. So,
I mean, there is a Michael in the book. There might as well be Marta.
yeah.
I like how Howl's name is spelled differently. How it's Howell, and then when he moves into the fantasy world, he's like, I'm gonna change the spelling of my name to Howl. I thought that
Yeah.
was really funny.
That's
Well, when I
actually an
kept
interesting
telling my
touch.
mom the book we were reading, I'm like, it's Howl's Moving Castle. And she's like, what? I'm like, Howl, like the sound a wolf makes.
So what did
I
she
didn't
say
know
then?
the name spelling changed.
Yeah, his name in Wales, they're like Howl, and it's 2 syllables, and I'm like, that's really funny.
No, but like I said, since I listened to this with my family in the car, actually, my partner and my mom, I think, liked the book more than I did. They both really enjoyed it. Like I said, my niece wasn't really listening.
Were you the one driving?
No, I wasn't driving. So I think actually of the whole group, other than my niece, I was the one like not invested in the story. Um, so
Lefty does point out that Martha did become herself by the end of the book. But for a lot of the story, they were both known as Letty. Yeah, like poor Michael freaked out about that when Howl said he was courting
Yeah,
Letty, and he's
that
like,
was
"No!"
so cute. That was so cute. That's why I said like I think Michael was my favorite in the book.
I
'Cause
like
he's just
when Sophie's concerned for her sister looking differently. She's like, but Michael, what about when you get older? What if she like changes the way she looks because she knows her sister's under disguise? And Michael's like, well, yeah, we're gonna get older. Of course, we're gonna look different. And Sophie's like, oh, thank God, he's not gonna care.
Hmm.
yeah.
Is it so obviously Sophie's the oldest, and then the middle one is the
Letty.
middle one is Letty, right? And then Martha is the youngest.
Martha is their half sister because she
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Because their
she is the
father
youngest.
passed away, and
remarried
Fanny
to that.
remarries, and
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that they like specify that Sophie and Letty's dad marries the youngest shop attendant, and I'm like, that's a little bit weird of a detail to include, but okay.
Oh, I
So I
forgot
feel
that
like there's
detail.
not like, it's supposed
Side-eyeing that dad now.
it's supposed to
it's like
insinuate that
the
there's
youngest
not that
and
big a difference.
it's like the
between-
youngest and prettiest of the shopkeepers or something.
Maybe it was just like to also get into to put in to Sophie's to Sophie's mindset, like that youngest, oldest, weird
Yeah.
insecurity that she has.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm so sad the sisters didn't make it into the movie now.
Yeah, she gets one sister and is barely even there, and Fanny is also barely in the movie.
Yeah, I think the sisters subplot was like really great, well done. Like the switching places, the like story with Howl and Michael's involvement, kind of going in and their apprenticeships. Like that was really interesting, and that's like when I started getting really involved in the book because yeah, it was interesting. I was like, wow, this isn't in the movie.
I'll say I wasn't a huge fan of Fanny in the book, but she is done dirty in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Considering how she is in the book, because in the book, she's just sort of a mom who is taking advantage of her eldest daughter, and she's not the best person, but she does care about all three of her children.
Yeah.
And then in the movie, she's flaky, overspends, and like one of the only times you see her, she's betraying Sophie. So
Michael's gonna have a great time watching this movie.
I know, right?
I do like that Sophie like tested her, like she wasn't sure if she was really like being taken advantage of, so she kind of was like, is she really taking advantage of me? Like
in the movie?
No, in the book.
In the book.
She's like, I think we should start earning a wage. And Fanny's like, yeah, we'll talk about that next week. And then they never did.
And then they
which
don't.
could be Fanny being shady, or Fanny may have just genuinely forgot because parents forget things all the time.
I don't know. I
but as
felt
far
like
as
she was
Sophie
like
is,
pushing like to see
shady.
like she was like trying to like give her like some benefits, like like hey, really are you really like being like taking advantage of me or not?
I feel like Fanny also, maybe the fact that it's mentioned that she was like the youngest in the shop when the unnamed father marries her, I didn't think about it until now, but her youth probably plays a role in how she acts towards her daughters, because I feel like there's not that huge of an age gap between Sophie and Fanny, so
it's almost like being the older sister as much as the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that awkward kind of like how she delegated the tasks to the three girls, like you're doing this and you're doing this, like
yeah.
Do you guys have any other thoughts on themes or symbols?
Just trying to connect it to Lord of the Rings. That's all.
Ah, Michael.
You can get back to us in the Discord server on that.
Me? Oh, well.
Good.
To be
Homework,
fair,
Any final thoughts? I mean, I had other banners, but we kind of brought those topics up organically in our discussion, so I'm kind of just gonna
Yeah.
skip over them.
Hmm.
Closing thoughts?
I'm
Nothing?
trying to save Michael.
I don't think so. I mean, like, I just feel like one of the issues I have with the story is like, she does a good job of putting these
Oh yeah.
like cliffhangers in early, like, oh, like Calcifer and Howl, what is this contract? How does how might Sophie break it also and stuff? And then it's like this huge, it feels like this huge muddy middle of like a lot of things that aren't even relevant. Like even like visiting the king twice doesn't really feel all that relevant to me. And then in the end, you have like all of the things, the cliffhangers resolved, all boom, boom, boom in dominoes all at once. And by then, I kind of just didn't care.
Like the setup versus payoff was unbalanced.
It was too late and therefore too little also.
Like, okay, like setup is like super like heavy, like things were set up good, and then like a big zigzag fluffy fluff, and then the payoff was like
basically, yeah. With nice sound effects too there, Violet.
You're welcome. I know what the people want.
I'm upset because I actually noticed one of these references, and so I'm sad I missed it. So in chapter 11, there's a sign on Megan's house labeled Rivendell.
Yes, if you remember that.
The last homely house.
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
Yeah. In chapter 12, there's an Alice in Wonderland reference. You know, we can't all be Mad Hatters.
It's
I remember that. Oh, I remember that, actually.
It's not just Rivendell. There's another Lord of the Rings name there, isn't there? It's Rivendell and one other place.
Well,
now that you said that, all Mad here one, I actually noticed that while reading, and I was like, oh, that was clever.
And then
I do
the Hamlet lines that Mars said. Oh, I have an everlasting cold, but luckily I'm terribly dishonest. I cling to that. That is a reference, and I now understand why it made no sense, because he was like, I'm terribly... I was like, what the fuck does being honest have to do with having a cold?
What is it a reference to?
Hamlet.
Is it? I don't remember that. It's been a long time.
The full line is, she heard mermaids, so it follows that something is rotten in the state of Denmark. I have an everlasting cold, but luckily I'm terribly dishonest. I cling to that.
Yeah, I got the Denmark line. I didn't realize the rest of it was also from Hamlet. Maybe I need to brush up on my Shakespeare.
You're like the most brushed up on Shakespeare person I know.
Yeah, and Hamlet's my second favorite play, so I'm very disappointed in myself.
What's your favorite?
The only
the doorway to Wales being only an inch thick after all is another Hamlet reference.
So she likes Hamlet, huh?
Apparently. The names of Solomon's alias Percival and Howl's brother-in-law Gareth are two of the Knights of the Round Table. I recognize that one. Yeah. And Pendragon, of course. The Witch of the Wast's name is a possible pun for the Witch of the West. And a traditional Welsh folk song, Siobhan Foch, is referred several times in the novel as Calcifer's silly saucepan song. I think it's cute that Calcifer sings a Welsh song.
I like all the references. I always say I like doing Easter eggs and stuff. Even though a lot of those went over my head. I do remember the Alice in Wonderland one though.
I remember many of those now that I have read them, and I'm like, oh yeah, I caught that one, and then I caught the Yorick one, but none of the others from Hamlet.
Oh, thank you. I had one more question for you guys before we wrap it up. Unless anybody has any closing thoughts at any point, you can interject. Will any of you guys read any of these companions in novels in the series going on?
Yes, I have a couple other series I need to finish first. Like, thanks to the Nostalgia Train book club, my children are now obsessed with a series of unfortunate events. So we are slightly
Oh.
buddy reading all of them. I'm on book 8. My middle is on book 6, and then the other two are on book 3. We were all listening to the audiobooks, but then I showed the children that they do in fact have hardcover editions at the library. And so now 2 of my children are reading them physically and through the audiobook library app.
Mhm.
So that's been fun.
Cool.
Maybe I will introduce them to this book series. We'll see.
I'll read the other two if I can like find them thrifting. Probably. I don't think I'll go out of my way to get copies of them. But if they happen to land in my collection, I wouldn't be displeased.
There's a website called thriftbooks.com. You can see if they ship to wherever you are.
Yeah, I used to use that for textbooks and stuff, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, sadly, I definitely won't be reading on.
Yeah, I think
But
I'm also
I
gonna
would
pass
be
on 'em.
interested in watching the movie for sure.
I think I just didn't maybe jive with the writing style. The
I
prose style.
love the writing style, but also I'm a lover of like fairy tales. I like stories where obviously I like stories where it feels like I'm in them, but there's a special place in my heart for stories where it kind of just feels like you're glimpsing someone else's life through a window, and that's what this felt like. Like you didn't get all the answers, but at least to me I got just enough to care about the characters and stuff.
I do think from previous book club meetings, it has become solely very apparent that Mars and I are fairy tale fanatics, and you and Michael not so much. At least not for at least not the writing style that leans itself more fairy tale-ish.
Well, I think it would be a good segue to say the September pick is Magic by Angie Sage, and
oh, look at that!
Mars will be the co-conductor, so it's appropriate that they're holding up the book.
Toot toot. Tickets,
Oh,
please.
Do I have the toot toot sound? I don't. Oh, yes, I do. I haven't read Magic. I don't know anything about it.
I haven't read it since like 2010, so
I'm excited. I'll be going in completely blind.
Is it a big book? Can you hold it up again? How many pages?
So it is. Oh, I have an extra chapter for the next book in the back.
Ooh.
My copy? Hold on. I think there's an extra.
Looks like a pretty
Oh.
chunker.
Okay, so there's 560 pages, but then this whole last bit is a novella that picks up 6 months after the ending of this, and then it also includes the first chapter of book 2 in the series.
And how big is like a big font on it, or it's like regular font?
Okay. The audiobook is 12 hours.
I was just going to check the audiobook. Okay. So that answers that question.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever read the novella that comes in the back. I'm like, why is it suddenly saying 100? There's definitely more than 100 pages.
Yeah. Magic is also a series of how many books?
7?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the other 6.
Yeah, because it's called like Septimus, right? Like.
Yeah, Septimus Heap is the main character. Yeah. He's the 7th son, and he gets into shenanigans.
Cool. I'm excited for that.
Is the novella called The Dark Toad?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
I don't have all the details yet for our October pick yet, so I'm not quite ready to announce that. But I will say that for October, we will be doing a readathon. So I can sprinkle that little tidbit out.
like for the whole month, or
Yes, the Nostalgia Stream will be doing a month-long readathon in October. So
excited. I love readathons.
be on the lookout for that. In November, we'll be taking the month off, and I've pretty much already said what the December pick is. So
oh, okay,
it's going to be Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, the Witch, and the
Right.
Wardrobe.
Right.
So I don't have a co-conductor for it yet, but that book has been set in stone like a year and a half in advance for our December book because it's so
Yeah.
Christmassy.
Santa Claus is in it. You kind of
Yes,
can't
it's
put it anywhere
like-
else in the year.
It has to be the Christmas book. I already knew that last year was going to be the Hobbit Christmas book, and this year Narnia was going to be the Christmas book. So
time flies. Like, well, I mean, Christmas
I
is still
remember that
some
conversation.
yeah,
Some
like I
ways
said,
away.
it's not really a surprise, so I don't feel
Yeah.
like
I remember. Yeah, you have been. I remember you have been saying that for like a year plus.
that
But
it's going to be the
time flies because, like, by Christmas, the Golden Compass live stream will be 2 years old already.
yeah.
Oh,
That
That
was
feels
wow.
like
our
yesterday.
Christmas book the year before the Hobbit, because again, a wintry book. I want to keep it kind of
Yeah.
thematic.
We've read some really good books together through the years.
We really have very cozy and
Yeah.
nostalgic about our nostalgia around here.
I still have a special place in my heart for Inkheart. Actually, that one was probably my favorite that I've read so far myself for the book club.
Inkheart
Aw.
now has a special place in my heart because like a lot of times we read these books, and because they're all kids books and stuff, I then if I like them enough, introduce them to my children. And
Yeah.
Inkheart has now become my oldest comfort audiobook when like he has a cold or he's not feeling good, and I'll be like, do you want me to put on a show or a book? And he'll say he'll be like, can you put on Inkheart? And I'm like, yeah, I can put
Aw,
Inkheart on.
cute. That
So
is a good one.
Nice. Yeah.
I just actually bought a physical copy of the Graveyard book, like with the actual metallic Newbery on it. I was like, oh, what a good find.
In like when you were stateside.
Yeah, I found a good used copy of it, and I was like, yes, I'm so happy to have this in my collection.
I finally completed my Series of Unfortunate Events collection because I found book 9 at the thrift store, I think like a week and a half ago.
Which
Like,
one
it
is
was very
9 again?
recently. I don't remember. The Carnival, maybe?
Oh, okay.
But I saw it and I'm like, I literally called my boyfriend and I'm like, I need you to look at my shelf and double check that this is the one that I'm missing because I think I could finally complete my collection after thrifting them for the past like 3-4 years.
Oh.
Very exciting. Do you guys have any outro things you want to promo or anything?
Tonight at 7 p.m., I will be hosting my birthday bash. We're going to be playing some Scriblio, words on stream, and hanging out and stuff.
Nice. So that's 7
p.m.
Central?
Yes.
Okay. So
Central.
8 Eastern.
Yeah. It's an hour difference.
Mars, you had a
Buy my book. It
thing?
comes out on Friday. It's really good.
Do you have an elevator pitch for the peoples who don't know what it's about? I'm the peoples.
I can read the synopsis if you'd like.
I would love that.
Oh gosh, I put washi tape over the bottom because this is the proof copy, and so I put washi tape over the not for sale sign. So the last bit of synopsis is cut off. But
Oh.
it says, the best time for a fresh start is during the crisp, clean autumn. At least that's what Georgie Miller keeps telling herself. After the death of her father the previous spring, Georgie's anxiety hit an all-time high, forcing her to leave the university she had been enrolled in. Now she has the opportunity to attend a different school, following in her brother's footsteps at the prestigious Westwood Conservatory. The school is known worldwide for 2 things: the rigorous academic standards to which it holds its students, and the numerous stories of the ghosts that haunt its campus. As a transfer student, Georgie attracts the attention of everyone at school, including the enigmatic Professor Decker and his esteemed yet reclusive teaching assistants. The question at hand, will Georgie be able to get the fresh start she so desperately craves? Will the ghosts that haunt her... This is where it cuts off. Something about the darkest depths of her insecurities.
That sounds really good.
And there's There's a little blurb from the one and only Anne Sophie. I got her to read my book and blurb it, so
You
it's
got an Anne blurb? That's
I did.
fancy.
Can we see the Violet? Can you make Mars full screen so we can see the book?
This is the cover. Whoop.
Oh my!
Ooh.
I
the washi
love
tape.
that font.
Thank you.
Oh.
I'm very particular about
The
that
spine.
font.
I have a little publisher's logo that Marta made for me.
Ooh, she fancy.
Okay, I'm sure.
That's great.
Okay.
Congratulations.
So soon, just around the corner.
Yeah.
So yeah, Michael, do you have anything you want to say?
Say.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Michael, for being my co-conductor this month. You were a big help since I was out of the country most of the month.
Yeah, and I did do my best also to promote the book read mostly over the first half of the month,
Yeah,
just
that was
when like
really
it would still give people a lot of time to read the book and join the discussion.
it took a lot of stress off my back. So thank you for doing that, and thank you to my co-host for being here, also Kelly. And the chat was really active and great today. So thank you everybody for showing up and participating. And hopefully we'll see you guys next month for Magic. And over on Discord, of course, as always. Bye.